welcome to those who are listening on radio. I'm pleased to be back with you this week, and as is customary, I always ask for you to help me to share this program on Facebook so that we can reach as many people as possible. You know, on this program, we like to ensure that we get the facts to the people, that I speak weekly on some of the issues in our country. We discuss some of the very, very important issues, and of course, we have to debunk some of the fake news and the false narratives that is being created by some menaces in our society that we have to be aware of. So please help me in spreading this program and sharing this program on Facebook so we can reach Guyanese wherever they are and people around the world. Whether you're joining me in Guyana or around the world, welcome. And we have a very, very packed program this evening. I'm going to launch straight into the topics tonight because, you know, the hour usually goes by so quickly. And many times, all of the things I plan to discuss on the program, I don't get an opportunity to because the hour goes by so quickly. And I always appreciate you joining me every Wednesday evening, coming into your living rooms and sharing this hour with you. So we've had a very interesting week. As you know, there's never a dull moment in this beautiful country called Guyana. And as we try every day to build a better Guyana, a one Guyana for all of our people, for our children, as we try to create a bright future for our young people, there are those who want to destroy, there are those who are destructive and continue to make or to spread fake news. They continue to speak about a Guyana that does not exist, and you know, they try to spin false narratives, many of them scraping the bottom of the barrel. So we have to, while we focus on our transformative agenda, we also have to expose them. We have to expose the lies, and we have to counter their narrative. Otherwise, people in Guyana, around the world, may fall prey to their false narratives. And so when people speak publicly and they are spreading racism, they are spreading hate, and they are sowing division in our country, we have to call them out. We have to expose them for the racists that they are. And we have to ensure that people get the right information, they get the accurate, the most accurate information. So last week, I spoke at length about the Alliance for Change, the AFC, and some of its members, you know, who go around the place acting very self-righteous. But we all know what their track record in government was, laced with corruption and scandal, even though, even now, they still present themselves as virtuous and righteous, but they are all hypocrites. And so we have to ensure that we continue to remind people of their track record while in government, and to let them know that, and to let you know, or people know, that there is no chance for you to trust them ever again to get near to power in this country. So the AFC announced during the week that they are leaving the coalition. Last week we spoke about how they announced that they would contest the local government elections separately from the APNU or the PNC. And this week they have made the further announcement that they are leaving the coalition at the end of the year. Now, in 2011, if we can go back there for a little bit, they contested the elections separately as a third party, and they garnered some support, and some people may have wanted to see we had for the first time a viable third party. People saw them as viable because they knew some of the members from before, the Moses Nagamutu and the Kemraj Ramjitans and so on. So people voted for a third party in 2011. By the time they got to 2015, they saw an opportunity to join with the PNC and some other small parties to form a coalition to take government. Because remember, from 2011 to 2015, they had that one seat majority in the National Assembly. So they saw an opportunity. And even though they had said for years repeatedly that they will not join with any of the major parties, the prospect of taking government, of having power, was too sweet to resist. And so they joined with the Partnership for National, what is it, APNU? Partnership for National Unity, they call themselves, the coalition government. So they joined, and they were declared the winners in the 2015 elections. They betrayed some of their supporters then, because some of their supporters wanted a third party. They ended up joining with one of the main parties in the country, the PNC, and they formed a coalition government. Anyway, all that is history now. In 2020, people voted for a coalition government. The people who supported them voted for a coalition government, which included the AFC. They have members who are sitting in the parliament who were elected to that parliament through a coalition government. Now they have decided, the AFC on their own, have decided that they will split from the coalition government. I'm sure that once again they may have some of their supporters who are displeased by that decision. Now, the point I'm making is you can't trust any of the parties in the coalition. You can't trust the PNC, you cannot trust the AFC. And this is a constant thing with the AFC. They decide, they wake up and on their own decide that while they're in the coalition, they're going to contest a local government elections on their own, as they did in 2018. Then in 2020, they decide they're contesting the general elections again as a coalition this time. Then they decide they're going to contest the 2023 local government elections on their own, and then before they even get to the local government elections, they decide that they're splitting from the coalition party. So this is, can you imagine being a supporter of a party that they can wake up any day and just make a decision? You don't know whether you're up, you're down, you don't know what they're going to do. They have supposedly a constituency. So I don't know how they make decisions on their own without consulting with their constituents. How can you have people like this who claim to be leaders and to be leading a political party that has a constituency? How can you put power in these people's hands or ever elect them to government, to govern on your behalf, when you can't even support them or whether they will stay? They're not committed to anything. They're not committed to the coalition. They're not committed to their supporters. All of them are untrustworthy. And so you never know what you're going to get with them. When you have a serious political party, consistency is key. Consistency is key. People are depending on you. People voted for you. They voted for a certain set of principles. They voted because they had certain expectations, And then, these people in the AFC, they just wake up and they decide, well, we're going to change all of that now. In the middle of their term in opposition, they just decide that they will split. But, very much like the PNC, I don't think they know what they're doing anymore. I think they're out of options. That goes for Aubrey Norton as well. They're just scraping the bottom of the barrel. And then you have Aubrey Norton still talking about a clean list. And for Aubrey Norton, a clean list means a new list. And, we've spoken for several weeks on this program about that, about what that means, and that a clean list, according to Aubrey Norton, as a new list, cannot happen, will not happen, because that matter has been decided already by the Chief Justice. And so there will not be any new house-to-house registration, because that is unconstitutional. It is illegal. And so there's no prospect of that. And I did outline on this program the process or the method that can be used to, quote-unquote, clean the list or sanitize the list. And I did explain through the claims and objections period that the Guyana Elections Commission will have from time to time. During that period, you can make a claim or an objection to somebody's name being on the list. Whether if the person is deceased, for example, you can object to their name being on the list. You can provide a record to GCOM, the death certificate, and GCOM will promptly remove that person from the list. So there is a process through which dead people can be removed from the list. And like I said, that is through the claims and objections period. Now, the same people who are now calling for a clean list or a new list, or the list needs to sanitize, the Aubrey Norton and the people from the AFC, I would like you to have a listen to what Kathy Hughes, and we spoke about Kathy Hughes, last week. I want you to listen to what Kathy Hughes had to say back in 2020, on May the 15th, 2020. Have a listen.
If there was a claims and objections period, the list would have been sanitized. And we would have made all these objections, and it would have been sorted.
So that's Kathy the hypocrite. And we spoke about her last week. She is one of the same people who are talking about clean lists, and they're not going to go to any elections unless the list is sanitized, and by that they mean a new house-to-house registration. So she understood, appreciated, and was advocating that through the process of claims and objections, the list can be sanitized. You can't make this stuff up. You heard it for yourself. That is Kathy Hughes at a press conference, and that's a very famous podium. I think that podium was the podium outside of the Recount Center, where we used to get. It was a very tense time in our country, but that podium shamed a lot of people back in 2020 when, all of the skullduggery and the rigging, at the height of the rigging was, was in full swing. Many people took to that podium that Kathy Hughes was standing at there to try to explain it away, to try to explain about this valid votes, invalid votes, how dead people got up and voted. We heard Valda Lawrence talking about ballots flying everywhere and all kinds of nonsense. People took to that same podium, and that is the podium of shame. And a lot of people embarrassed themselves and forever tarnish their reputation at that podium because they participated openly in the rigging of the elections and then took to that podium to defend it and to try to explain it away as though Guyanese are stupid and as though we don't have common sense and we can't see and understand for ourselves. People saw this thing in clear daylight. People knew that the PPPC won the elections and that APNU AFC had 5 celebrations, 5 victories and 5 celebrations, and in the first few days work after March the 2nd was claiming we had a clean elections and that they won and they had the statements of poll to prove it. And then the moment the recount was ordered, suddenly the elections wasn't clean anymore, the list wasn't clean, and suddenly the PPP rigging the elections and a whole lot of anomalies and they used to use some words. Yeah, they had a whole lot of words they used to use with inconsistencies and anomalies and with the elections and creating all kinds of ruckus. And this was an election that they claimed to win 5 times. But then suddenly the elections was marred by rigging. But we all know and saw and heard the APNU in partnership with some unsavory characters at GCOM. We saw them trying to alter the results of the election. We also had a very important announcement this week, and that is the increase for public servants. And you know that public servants this year end will receive that 8% increase across the board. And so many people expressed that they were very, very happy with the increase. And this is on top of the 7% increase that was given by the PPP administration last year. So I want people to understand as well that during this period where our country is transitioning, where we are moving towards a future where we will have more oil and gas production and we will eventually have more access to resources, that we have to be very, very prudent during this time. We have to be very calculated about how we are going to govern this country. We cannot get excited. We cannot be reckless. You, the people, elected us into government to govern on your behalf. You put your trust in us to manage the resources of this country in the best way possible. And that is all that we are trying to do. We're trying to ensure that we implement sound fiscal policies, that we are conservative, and it takes a lot of discipline. But remember, this is a party that you trust. This is a party that was elected in 1992 when this country was bankrupt, when no other country or no international financial institution wanted to grant any loans to Guyana because of the state of the economy and the bankruptcy of the economy. And the People's Progressive Party Civic was able to lead this country through that very difficult period with little to no money. And we were able to manage this country. And in 2015, when we handed over the reins of power to the coalition government, we did so with a surplus. In a very, very short time, you saw this country on a path to prosperity. And we saw what the coalition government, the APNU AFC, did to this country in just 5 years, spending over $1 trillion in 5 years, more than the People's Progressive Party civic government spent in 23 years. I've said it before on this program, but I don't think people it has really sunk into people's minds. They spent more money in 5 years than the PPPC did in 23 years. And you know all of the things that the PPP did in 23 years. All of the schools, hospitals, housing schemes, all built under our government. And there was nothing new under the APNU, AFC. We saw them go in there and to take the resources of this country and converted it to their own use. We saw that they looked after themselves. We saw that they looked after their families. They give scholarships to themselves. They give scholarships to their own children. They didn't provide scholarships or training for the people of this country. They didn't provide housing for the people of this country. They didn't build new schools for the children of our country. As a matter of fact, they took away the grant to the children of our country. And then they tried to impose value-added tax on education in this country. And you know, we had to fight to have that removed because it's the most ridiculous tax that you can think about, a tax on education. They taxed water, they taxed electricity. Every year they reported more and more billions of dollars collected by the GRA from taxpayers. And they were proud of that and they boasted about that. Winston Jordan loved to boast about that, about how much revenue he collected. So, and in looking after themselves, you would recall in the first 6 months, less than 6 months of them taking office in 2015. And remember I said last week, it took only 6 months for Guyanese to realize they had buyer's remorse. And this is a reminder. Kevin, if you could just put up the clipping. No apologies, government justifies salary increases, Harman. And Harman said in that article, I'm just going to read the first paragraph there for you. Following news of over 50% salary increases for ministers of government, Minister of State Joseph Harman has stated that these increases are justifiable, considering the quality of cabinet members, and thus the government has no apologies to make. Can you imagine talking about the quality of cabinet members? This is a slap in the face to public servants and Guyanese everywhere. This is a slap in the face. So there are some people who are talking about 8% is a slap in the face. This is what a real slap in the face is. Now imagine if President Ali were to pay his ministers based on their quality. How much do you think the People's Progressive Party civic ministers are worth? You can't put a price on that. People work hard every day, and not ministers alone. We can't put a price on the teachers. We can't put a price on the nurses. Their service, all public servants, their service is priceless. It's priceless. No amount of money can compensate. No amount of money can compensate President Ali for the work that he does. No amount of money can compensate frontline workers for the risks that they took during the COVID-19 pandemic to still deliver health care to the people of our country. No amount of money can compensate teachers for showing up at school, or even when schools were closed, ensuring that material reached the children, or that they met them online or through Zoom to be able to deliver education to the children of our country. So how can you talk about quality and justifying a salary increase for yourselves, for ministers of the government, and talk about quality? This is a real slap in the face, if you want to know one. And then you have some of the other ministers at the time, Keith Scott being one of them, speaking about striking teachers are selfish and uncaring. This is what he said about teachers. And then you have Coretta McDonald from the Teachers Union, the secretary to the Guyana Teachers Union. She too joining the bandwagon and talking about it's a slap in the face for teachers. What was this? What was this striking teachers are selfish? Isn't this a real slap in the face? This is embarrassing. They should be so embarrassed when they think and they look back on their track record and when they were in government, you know, how smug they were and the things that they told the people of our country. They didn't care then, but they care now. This is the hypocrisy that irritates me. You know, it gets under your skin. This is the type of hypocrisy. And these people are still around. And these people are hosting press conferences and still speaking publicly and you know, walking around the place with their shoulders held straight back and their noses in the air and still walking around, all of them like sanctimonious gangsters and pretending to be virtuous. But we must identify them for who they are. It's absolutely necessary that we identify them for who they are. They are hypocrites and we have to call them out as hypocrites. And we cannot allow them to walk around the place or to preach to us. They have no moral authority to preach to the people of this country about transparency, about accountability, about corruption, about democracy. Imagine the APNU AFC talking about clean elections. Can you imagine? The same people that openly, blatantly try to rig an election in front of the whole world. The whole world, with all of these international organizations condemning them, calling it out, the OAS, Carter Center, the Commonwealth, everybody calling them out, the ambassadors, speaking about what they were witnessing in Ashman's building and at GCOM building and then at the recount. And they want to lecture us about democracy and advocate for clean lists and a new house to house when all of that is not possible. And then you have Aubrey Norton at his press conference again yesterday, also talking about the salary increase and criticizing the government for not going to collective bargaining. And this is an exchange. Just have a look at the exchange between him and a reporter.
Ms. Garnett?
Hi, good morning.
Good
Tamika
morning.
Garnett, Guyana Chronicle. I want to continue on the same issue that Mr. Harris was speaking on, the salary increase. Mr. Paul noted that the AFC wants to respect the unions and negotiations with them. But we saw that when the AFC was in government from 2015 to 2020, a lot of salary increases were imposed on public servants and the union was not consulted. Do you think it's a bit hypocritical to now be saying that you're willing to work with the union and then when the party was in government, it wasn't willing to work with the union?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say the coalition wasn't prepared to work. The coalition was meeting. They met with the teachers union. They met with the public service union. They didn't find agreement. Look, I will say this without fear of successful contradiction. Over the years, most governments in Guyana have erred in terms of dealing with collective bargaining. Future governments must recognize a change in the situation and be committed to collective bargaining. I don't see it as hypocrisy. I see it as acknowledging an error and moving on.
So why should the Guyanese population now believe that the AFC is ready to work with collective bargaining and not impose salary increases when their track record does not state that?
Well, I would say the track record showed that we began negotiations with them and they weren't conclusions. I'm saying to you, the Guyanese public must believe us because, first of all, we are acknowledging a change in the situation. Two, we're saying that it's a mistake that has been made, and moving forward, we should rectify that mistake and ensure that we become involved in collective bargaining.
Oh, poor Norton. We made a mistake, and we will rectify our mistake. Aubrey Norton wants you to have pity, have mercy, and forgive him. Poor Norton. APNU AFC is like an abusive partner. You know, when you're in an abusive relationship and one of the partner beats you up and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again. Give me another chance. Trust me, it's going to be different this time." That's the APNU AFC. They're like an abusive partner. They beat and batter their supporters, and they did that in government to the people of our country generally. And now they want to come back to you and say, "Oh, we made a mistake. We recognize it. Forgive us. We're not going to do it again." But the reporter is raising a very important point. She is questioning their integrity, and she's calling out the hypocrisy. So he's sitting there and saying, "Oh, it's not hypocrisy. We made a mistake and we're going to fix it going forward." But the people can only trust you based on your track record. And that's the point that the reporter is making. So you have a track record where you did the opposite of what you're saying now, but you're asking people to trust you going forward. You're making public statements now in support of public servants, but when you were in government, you raised your own salary. You're making public statements in support of teachers now, but in government, you call them selfish when they were striking for better wages and better conditions and so on. They were selfish then. But now, when you're in opposition, you know, it's very easy to sit, like I said, behind that screen or without anybody opposing you or questioning you. It's very, very easy to sit there and spew all kinds of nonsense and make all kinds of false and empty promises again. But people have to remember what the track record was. And people will remember what you did in office. And so they will judge you based on that. They're not going to judge you based on what you're saying now, because you abused people in the past. You abused your supporters, you abused the people of this country, you abused the resources of this country, you abused power when you had it. And so nobody is going to trust you going forward. And that's why it's very important that we in government, that we balance what we are doing every day in terms of leadership in this country, ensuring that we deliver on our manifesto commitments, ensuring that we deliver for the people of our country, that we do what we said we will do and even go beyond. And you have seen many, many cases of that. Us rolling out programs and projects that were not even promised in the manifesto. But because we are a government that consults, because we have a president who goes into communities and listen to people and understand their issues, challenges, and difficulties, he can come up with ideas, policies, plans, programs to address those difficulties so that people's lives can be improved in a meaningful way. And that is how we are able to address, but to go beyond our manifesto commitments. So while we are doing that, we have to also keep an eye on these same people in opposition. And we have to be able to answer them every time they get on television or they go on Facebook or they go on a platform anywhere and spew nonsense and try to divide this country. We have to fight them. Every day we have to answer them. And we will not get tired of doing that. We will not get tired of ensuring that we deliver for the people, and we will not get tired of trying to protect people from that type of hatred and that type of racism and the division that they want to subject the people of this country to. We have to try as much as possible and as hard as possible to counter their narrative. Every day we will do it. So I want them to know, as I know they're watching and they're listening, that we will not stop. Irfan Ali and Irfan Ali's government, President Ali and his government, is full of energy because we have a young president, we have a young cabinet, we're full of energy. We'll work day and night. We will work day and night to ensure that the people of this country finally can go to bed at night knowing that they have a government that they can trust and that they have a government that they can place their future in. And this government will deliver for them. This government will deliver for our country. This government will deliver for our pensioners, our public servants, our children. We will deliver as we have been doing. And you can judge us based on our track record. You can look and judge for yourself the quality of the work being put out by your president and by all the ministers and all of the government, because we cannot do this alone. We do this hand in hand with our very hard-working public servants. Take, for example, the Ministry of Housing, how hard the people of that ministry work, and the Guyana Water Inc. and the Central Housing and Planning Authority. They work day and night for weeks at a time. Every time we have allocation exercises, back-breaking work, long hours, long tedious hours, serving the public, preparing for those days, and then when we have those days, serving the public, listening to people, serving them, ensuring that we deliver quality housing to the people of our country. And we have an aggressive housing construction drive, which we didn't promise in the manifesto. But like I said, we have a president who keeps his ears to the ground, who is very involved in communities, and people have said to him, President Ali, we need houses. We want to go beyond house lot allocation. And we have started to construct, to lead the effort in the construction of houses for people, for young people, those who've been waiting a long time. Our focus has been on home ownership, getting people into their own home. Implementing different programs like the cement and steel program to help people with their equity payments, because that's another area where we recognize that there is a deficiency there, where people need help. They can qualify for a loan, but they don't have that upfront 10% or 15% equity payment, and so they needed help with that. So we designed a program for that. All of this outside of the manifesto commitments, but we're working overtime and in overdrive to ensure that everything that we do is meaningful to people and is impactful on people's lives, that we improve people's lives. And the only way we can know the best way to improve your life is by asking you, is by coming to you and asking you what the issue is, what is the problem, what is affecting you, how can we help, how can we fix it, what do we need to do. That's why we come into your communities. That's why the president can pick up himself, whether it's 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock, or at night, during the day, anytime, and go into a community and say to people, what is troubling you? Let me help you. Let me fix it. That is the quality of the leader that you have in President Ali. You have a very active Prime Minister who holds a substantive portfolio. Prime Minister is always in the field as well, traveling across this country, ensuring that he delivers in a real way internet connectivity for the people across our country, especially in the hinterland regions. A program that Cathy Hughes claimed that she did. And then when we got there, I spoke about this last week, we saw a small dish that doesn't work and a hut that she claimed was an ICT hub. Empty shell of a building. That's not the type of internet connectivity that the Prime Minister is working so hard to ensure that his office delivers for the people of our country, especially our Amerindian brothers and sisters in our hinterland communities. But they will sit on television and on Facebook and pen letters, and we're coming to that just now, talking about a Guyana that is, or Guyanese that are being discriminated against, and making a plea and using Afro-Guyanese to enhance their point about racial discrimination, when we all know that that is not so, and that is why we have to call them out. We cannot allow them to spew hatred and to divide our country with impunity. We cannot allow them to get away with it. And we see this every day. Only recently, I believe it was yesterday, a young man complimented, a young Afro-Guyanese entrepreneur, complimented the work of the government, and he did so publicly, and it was an article that was carried by the newsroom. Businessman rejects claims of discrimination in Guyana, and you should check out this article. It's a very good article and very brave of this young Afro-Guyanese entrepreneur commenting on the government's work. And he says this in the article, and I quote, "The PPP government is very engaging. I like how cabinet members are reaching out to every community to hear from the people directly and following up with the people's requests." This is Mr. Morris Archer Jr., Chief Operating Officer at Seavon's Waste Management. Archer Jr. rejected those claims, stating, "I have not experienced any discrimination as a businessman." And we know this. Mr. Archer is speaking the truth here. We know that there is no racial discrimination in our country. We know that this is all a figment of Norton's imagination. Jordan liked to talk about figment of imagination. They are living in an alternate universe. All of them, the Norton and the Mahipal and the Cathy Hughes, all of them are living in an alternate universe. They're not living in Guyana. And they are going to sit there with a straight face and tell you that there is some kind of discrimination going on. Yet, you can go on Facebook or put on your television and you can look at the news and you can see, for example, when we have a house lot allocation exercise where there are cameras everywhere, and you can look in the faces of the crowd there. You can look into the faces of the audience when President Ali is speaking and making announcements and making interventions in different communities, and you will see the faces of Guyanese. He doesn't just go into Annandale or Kanji and doesn't go into Linden or Belladrum in Region 5. He was there recently. The Minister of Public Service was there recently, Sonia Parag. And then you have the upstarts in the opposition like Vince Roy Jordan, who says, "We don't want development here and we don't want it from you." They alone, like I said, this is like an abusive partner. The APNU, AFC, they will abuse their own supporters. They will deprive their own supporters. They will punish their own supporters just to spite the government. That's what they will do. They will cut their own nose to spoil their face. You know that saying? That's what they will do. That's how vindictive they are. That's how dangerous they are. And that's why we cannot allow them to get away with it. And we have to recognize it, and we have to speak out against it. And that's why you have young people like this young man openly speaking out against it, because it is not true. And they're trying to gain attention or garner attention in the country in different pockets. They go into their hardcore areas and try to spread this false narrative And then you have some of the members of the opposition. I don't even know if he's a member of the opposition. This Darren Wade, he's like a fringe member. He's like a reject. He's like one of the rejects. I don't even think the AP and UAFC wants him because they don't include him in anything. I don't see him in any substantive role or position anywhere. He just shows up from time to time and rambles. And he went on Facebook to attack the young man that I was just talking about. And he's supposedly an attorney at law. I mean, even the attorneys should disown him, because when you read the stuff that he posts on Facebook, it's never in proper English, and yet he's an attorney. He says this is shameful and disgraceful. That's what he's saying about the young man, who is simply speaking about his truth. That young Afro-Guyanese entrepreneur is speaking his truth. He is saying there is no racial discrimination in Guyana. I have never experienced racial discrimination under the People's Progressive Party civic government. And as a matter of fact, I like how the government is governing the country. That's what the young man said. And Darren Wade attacks the young man. This is shameful and disgraceful. That's what and that he's awaiting to see who else is prepared to go this route. Well, anybody with a conscience will speak their conscience. And this is a pattern. This is a pattern that the opposition has, the APNU AFC has, that every time a member of the Afro-Guyanese community speaks in favor of the government, they are attacked. And they are called all sorts of names. You will recall what one of the opposition members of parliament referred to the Afro-Guyanese member of staff of the National Assembly who held on to the mace. Remember what she called him? A house slave. They like these terms. They like to label Afro-Guyanese with these terms when they speak their truth or they stand up in defense of something that is right. Every time a member of the Afro-Guyanese community stood up during that 5-month period and said, this is wrong, and we stand up for democracy, something was wrong with that person. They betrayed the party, or they're betraying Afro-Guyanese, and they attack them in the most vile way, in the nastiest of ways, in the most vulgar ways, and they try to shame them for speaking the truth. And Afro-Guyanese everywhere must stand up to them, stand up for the truth, because the reality we know is very, very different. And they, like I said, continue to abuse their supporters. They abuse the Afro-Guyanese in our country, and they try to guilt trip them into supporting a party, which is the PNC, for example, just based on ethnicity. But our country is far, that is our past. We are far beyond that. We are trying our best every day while we try to deliver the economic transformation and social transformation in our country. We are also at the same time trying to unite this country. And anything like Norton and Volda, and by the way, Volda is very quiet these days. Now that I remember, Volda, Volda is very smart. Volda still has to explain how her signature got on the declaration of Region 4, even though no party representative was required to sign that document. Volda's name appeared on the declaration. She's yet to explain that. But I suspect Volder is just, sitting there quietly. Volder doesn't come out with Norton. Volder is ashamed of Norton. Let's face it. Volder is ashamed of Aubrey Norton. Volder probably can't believe that this is the opposition leader, this is the leader that we have. I think Volder is ashamed. I don't know if Volder has shame, because, like I said, these are the people who stood up barefaced and tried to rig an election and then tried to defend the rigging of the election. And even now, we'll come and tell you a different story. But I suspect Volder is waiting quietly in the sidelines. She don't want to associate too much with Norton because she probably realized he don't have long to last. So Volder is just waiting for Norton to slip. And when Norton slip, he can slide. So Volder is just waiting in the wings. But like I said, when I mention certain names, things come up. But I'm not going to allow Volder to derail me tonight. We're probably going to leave Volder for a special program. But like I said, this party, the AFC, the APNU, they continue to betray their supporters. We can't trust them. These are people with no integrity. These are people who made empty promises throughout through the years leading up to the 2015 elections. And when they got into office, they betrayed everyone, kept none of those promises, including the promises to the young people of our country. That was one of the biggest betrayals to the young people of our country, because they lobbied young people heavily in 2015, lobbied them and fooled them, told them that young people will be included in the government, will form part of the decision-making body. They included them, said that they will include them, and we saw the stock of parliamentarians, the octogenarians that then held the seats in the National Assembly and in the cabinet of the APNU AFC during the 2015 to 2020 years. So they betrayed the youth and the young people. And even now, recently in the last 2 years, we had 3 changes in the parliament on the opposition side. You had Harman, Nicolette Henry, and who's the other person? Trotman. So who did they replace? These are 3 older people, seasoned politicians, people fed up with them. And then you have Norton, who's 65 years old, replacing Harman. You have Volder, another washed-up politician, rejected, tried to rig the elections. Volder replacing Nicolette Henry. And Beverly Alert replacing Trotman. Where are the young people? Where are the young people? Here you have another opportunity presenting itself here to you. Norton likes to talk about young people now. They're lobbying young people again. But here you had 3 seats opening up while you were in opposition, presenting an opportunity for you to appoint a young person to the National Assembly. And you put back the same old, rejected politicians that people tired of seeing. So again, what must people trust you on? Based on what? Based on your actions. And this is the evidence of your actions. This is your record. So that you have to face it. So let me just keep an eye on the time, because I realize 5 more minutes. But I need to get to, Kevin, you'll bear with me. I need to get to this final point that I'll have to deal with tonight, where we saw a letter originating from an organization called the Institute for Action Against Discrimination, signed by Leland Saul. And Leland Saul is writing to a United States representative saying that Guyana is on the brink of civil unrest. Can you imagine? Writing about Guyana on the brink of civil unrest. But I want you to go, Kevin, you'll have to go straight to the video, because I want the people of this country to see the person that signed this letter, Leland Saul, a member of the AP and UAFC government when they were in office. He was the CEO of Central Housing and Planning Authority under the Granger administration. This is Leland Saul interacting with President Ali on October 14th of 2022. Listen very carefully to how the president is interacting with Leland Saul and addressing the concerns that he's raising.
Good day, sir. Leland Saul. Your Excellency and team, welcome to Belgium, and more particularly El Dorado, the soul of West Berbice. We're pleased to have you here, but I understand why we were not informed. I was thinking initially maybe it was some security concern.
I don't have any security concern.
Okay. No.
I don't have any security concern anywhere in the island. I touch down anytime, anywhere, anyhow.
I want to nevertheless assure you that you're well secured here. You don't have nothing to be worried about. Alright? You know, ideally we would have wanted to, especially community leaders would have wanted to consult with their constituents so that problems that we raise are common and we do not bog you down with trivial issues. Some time ago, this community, this NDC, we sat down and we began to work on a community development plan which is very holistic. One of the things that we did initially was a land use plan. And coming out of that, we want to come up with this development plan that take into consideration the SDG and the low carbon development strategy and so on, as we move the community forward, as we address economic and social issues. We will continue to work on that plan, and the NDC will champion that plan.
Is there any priority area you want us to address now?
Yes, agriculture, our back dam. We want people to go back there and farm. We need that back dam to be cleared, especially from falls going straight through to wetland. That is important.
Falls to where?
Falls to wetland, the backlands.
How many acres of land is that?
I know
I had to cut the video a little short because we are almost out of time, but I took the time to show you that video because imagine 1 month later, in November this year, just a month after that interaction with the president, Leland Saul is an Afro-Guyanese, and the president is in his community in Belgium, Region 5, sitting there interacting with the members of that community who are predominantly Afro-Guyanese. And listen to our president. Listen to how the president is asking questions. Because President Ali is genuinely concerned about the issue that Mr. Saul is raising. That's what the president went there for. To listen to the community, to consult with them, to find out what the issues are so that he can address it as any good leader, as any good president would do. And that is the type of president that we have leading this country. And imagine Leland Saul. Leland Saul is putting his trust in that moment in President Ali. He felt comfortable picking up that microphone and being able to speak directly to the commander-in-chief of this country because he knows that the president can address his matter or his issue. And then 1 month later, writes a letter speaking about the country being on the brink of civil unrest. This is impossible, man. This is unbelievable that people would stoop to this level. Do these people not realize that we have evidence of these things? That video evidence exists? How does a man who's signing a letter to someone in the United States Congress claim that Guyana is on the brink of civil unrest because of this president and this leadership and this government, and then we can show 1 month before he has the opportunity to speak directly to the president and raise his matter. You think people in the United States can find President Biden in their community sitting under a tent at a table, can address their issue like this in the way President Ali would? I'm not comparing presidents, but we have to be real. We have to be realistic. And Leland Saul was given a priceless opportunity to speak directly to his president, because President Ali can fix it and can address his situation. And all of the people in the audience, they're majority Afro-Guyanese. He's there to deliver for them. He's there to speak with them, listen to them, and then deliver for them. Ensure that he fixes all of the issues that was raised. And then the same Leland Saul is going to talk about Guyana on the brink of civil unrest. Where is the evidence of that? There is no evidence of that. And that is why, I say to you, I'm not going to lose energy countering this type of narrative. This is dangerous, dangerous narrative. And we don't have to worry, because there is evidence. There is evidence of the Guyana that we speak about and we are trying to govern. There is evidence of a one Guyana. There is evidence of unity in this country and of a government delivering equitably for all the people of our country. I'm afraid, once again, I'm out of time. I would have liked to show you some more of that video and to explain in more detail that interaction. And it's a beautiful interaction with the president and Leland Saul. But maybe we can talk about it some more next week. But thank you very, very much for joining me this evening. It's always a pleasure being here with you. Please stay safe. God bless you, and join me again next week. Thank you.